And so you can see a whole lot of young transplants started. I got some peppers right here that I transplanted yesterday. And so I wanted to show you some of the things that we're going to look for when we're talking about starting transplants. Right here I have some very young tomatoes. These have just been in the media for about a week. You can see I've got them in nice little divided trays here. This is really handy for small scale because, you know, I've got about 20 different varieties there. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is you can see this is a really fine seedling mix. So that's germination mix. Over here, if you look at some of the seedlings that have already been transplanted, this is more type of pro mix that we would use for larger cell packs. And so what you see is more perlite here, more vermiculite here, so this drains slower, holds water better. This will drain faster and hold a little bit less water, so it's better for these larger tray sizes. I'm in the middle right now of doing some transplanting, and I wanted to point out to you one of the challenges that we sometimes see with our transplants. See that little guy right there? That is an example of damping off that has occurred. This is actually the first time it's ever happened to me in my trials here in the greenhouse, and I think that what we had was actually just a little bit of over watering occurring over there in our mist beds. So that's why you see I pulled my trays out here so that I can make sure I don't get any more moisture than is necessary with this media that holds water really well. If we overwater that, then we can literally run the risk of killing off our young transplants. And I think that that example of damping off is probably one of the most common things that we'll see in small scale transplants. The other thing that I wanted to show you was just a little bit about how I'm doing my transplanting here. So I've got my media trays all filled. This is not completely dry. I wanted to tell you, this is just a little bit moist, and I like it this way because it's easy to work with. So bone dry we wouldn't want because peat moss is hard to re-wet once we get it dry. But just a little bit of moisture, like it was in the bag when I opened it up, can be useful for transplanting at this stage. And so what I'm going to do is pull off a little clump of transplants right here. I'm going to gently separate them, and you can see that I've got a nice tap root and just a little bit of media there. This is a pretty manual process, so I'm just going to make myself a little bit of a dibble there with my finger. I'm going to place them in there and slide the soil media. Sorry, it should be media. This is soil less mix around him. That's one of the nice things about having the media just a little bit moist but not wet, because it jiggles well. I know that's not a very technical term, but my goal after I transplant these is to get as much root to media contact as possible. So lots of times I'll just gently tap this tray, get that media to kind of shake down around those small roots that I just put in, because what I want is those young roots to be able to take up water really quickly. And then with an overhead water, I'll just quickly give these guys a shot as soon as I get them transplanted, and we will get these young plants on their way.